Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Into the Infinite. I'm Charlie and I'm so glad that you're here. That sounds so serious and intense. I mean, yeah. So I wanted to make a video about a few things that I've been encountering as I've been launching the website and putting my art stuff out there and all of that jazz. So um, it has a little bit to do with letting go of control and in terms of your best and worst case scenario. So let me just break that down a little more. So the question that kept coming to mind while I was doing all of this, and even with other things happening in my life as well, is who would you be without your worst case scenario? So who would you be if you weren't constantly worrying about your worst case scenario and the most terrifying thing that could happen to you? Um, I often think about how and whom we become trying to stave off that worst, right? And it kind of gets wrapped up in your ego and spiritual ego in terms of what identity you take on, right? Pick your project management term to describe it, because it is a little bit, but like, risk analysis, or I'm productively worrying so that I can figure out the right thing to do. And I don't know. I am getting to a place just within myself, and like it had been there already, but this is just sort of like yeah, that's the thing. So I wanted to share it in case it's relevant for you. But we think about worry as productive sometimes. Oh, I'm thinking about how it might all turn out. I'm thinking about all these different things. So that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to be helpful. We think about it as a productive thing that makes us useful or effective, and it really just takes away our energy. It drains so much energy, because who we become when we look to our worst case scenario all the time is someone who not only sees the worst case scenario. So what ends up happening is you kind of develop a little bit of like, you don't really see past here, because like this is all that you're looking for. So if you're anticipating the worst, then what ends up happening, even if you have good intentions, this is the part that really threw me for many years, and now I'm just kind of dialing back into it and learning more about. I just got thrown because it was the time was 2:22 on the recording. But anyways, so I bringing it back to this stuff, I keep thinking about how you become someone that you did not intend to be when you're focused so much on these worst case scenarios, right? And it's not even that you're not trying to do something good, because those things can be well intentioned. But when you take away, so this, we'll bring it back to letting go of control. When you let go of control and just welcome things in to happen as they will happen, and like you're in that state of flow more, all of the behaviors that you had that became who you are, worry, even if it's productive worry, it can be helpful, yes, but then you're also exclusively looking for that stuff, and then you may not be able to recognize good when it shows up. So that's part of it. But also, what if you were really just afraid of it being so good that it just kind of short-circuited your identity that came from bad stuff? This is just a thought that I had while I was journaling, which I do a lot of every morning. That's where you'll find me. So I think about this in the context of putting work into the world and releasing art, because art is really just like you're putting all these little art babies out into the world every time you make something. When I haven't done it as much. I haven't done as much songwriting. You can see the guitar there. But I used to quite a lot. Like I used to perform at, there was a Women's Day show. There's a recording that lives of that. I don't know what I'll do with that. Maybe something one day. But so when I would put songs out into the world, I would show them to people, and these little pieces of you go live in other people's minds, and you don't necessarily know how all those things are going to land, and that can be really terrifying, right? So any act of creating, so be it writing or singing, dancing, drawing, performing, even content creators, you put something into the world and you're like, well, I hope that this resonates, because it did for me. And you have to kind of realign your metric for what is good for you. Because then if you're making from a different place, again, if you're making from that worst case scenario, it's going to reflect in the stuff that you put into the world, right? So all of this just to say that I really do wonder how different we would be if, and you know, I think about when I say this, I'm also like implicating myself too, thinking about my 20s and like how much time did I spend building up these barriers to prevent horrible things from happening that never ended up happening anyway, right? They never ended up happening anyway. And there's a Michael J. Fox quote that goes something along the lines of, you know, when you worry about the worst case scenario, if it happens, then you'll have worried about it or lived through it twice. Don't quote me on that specifically, but that's the paraphrase. It's around about what he said, but brilliant also, because it's true, right? Who wants to relive through, like, who wants to live that stuff 2 times? Let it happen once if it's going to happen at all, because it never usually happens as horribly as you think it will. And generally speaking, it's actually fucking awesome when it happens. So with all of that being said, who would you be without your worst case scenario? Who would you be? How much freer would you be to just make awesome shit if you're not invested so much in how horrible things could turn out? Will everyone like you? No. But that's an excellent thing, because you are not meant to be liked by everyone. You're not meant to be loved by everyone, you know, and the stuff that you make is for you. And when it comes from here, like really here, it shines on its own merit. It doesn't need your plans. It doesn't need your best intentions, although they are good to have, but it just flows. It's hard to explain, because when you experience it, it becomes a knowing. But I wanted to pose the question to you on this channel to ask, who would you be without that worst case scenario? What would happen if you just let go of all the control you think you need to have over things? And things being, you know, opinions people have, work that you're trying to put out into the world. Just name your thing and put it in that blank, right? So who would you be without it, right? And are you really trying to stop it from being so good that you lose the part of yourself that is able to cling to an identity of it being so bad? You know, if it was awesome, if it delighted you, if it surprised you and was fantastic, who would you be? Who would you be if it was actually awesome? And maybe that's like the, you know, I used to work at a bookstore, and my coworkers used to say that like I have like rainbows and sunshine and just all of these things, like I would burp rainbows and whatever. Although I feel like that would be very bad. Anyway, I don't even know. But like some people may be uncomfortable and say, well, that's optimism and that's like Pollyannaing and whatever. But I feel like the world can be such a dumpster fire some days that maybe that's the dose of optimism that we need just today. Like maybe you just need it today, or maybe you need it another day, and that's what will get you through. Maybe. So who would you be without your worst case scenario? Let it free your creativity a little bit, just a little bit, not the whole way if it doesn't feel comfortable, just a tiny bit. See what happens. You know, who would you be if you had best case scenarios more than what you may have been used to? That's the video. So I look forward to seeing you on the next one. That's the video. And I don't know. It's taken so many takes to get this video, and I just did it in under 10 minutes without even trying. So I'm sure there's a lesson in there on effort. But thank you so much for joining me here. I hope this was useful to you, or was a good reminder, or offered some kind of food for you in here. And I will see you on the next ones. Thank you so much for stopping by. Until I get a jingle, I'm going to be singing to you. So deal with it. Okay. Bye, guys.